everybody, welcome back to what is probably the saddest video I'll have ever had to have made. You guys know the situation by now. If you're watching this, you probably already read up on it. But we're going to discuss the Super League and my sort of take on what's happening. Obviously, not all the facts have been released as of yet. I've actually had a lot of comments asking me to make a video on this, so you know it's football themed and it's inclined with the video. I'm in a shirt. I had an interview today. I've got another interview tomorrow for the same guy. You know, he invited me back for an interview, so I'm quite happy. I might make a video on that at some point in the future because it will affect the channel if I've got to work full-time hours. Anyway, the Super League. Now, I don't want the comments to be you attacking what I'm saying. That's not what this video is about. It's about me exploring what the Super League actually means, how it will affect things, and what not necessarily we as fans need to look out, but we as people need to look at, and who to actually attack in this, because at the end of the day, people need to be told, and clubs need to be informed by the fans what's going on. So, and I think there is a big key important thing that I want to talk about. Now, surprisingly enough, I had a very good debate with someone on Twitter last night. Like, it was 100% respectful. I said thanks for having a debate. We all ended on good terms, but we were literally just sat discussing what it necessarily means. And I will play devil's advocate in this video and look at both sides of the story, who I think need to come forward as figureheads in this whole debate. And I haven't got my hair in a bun because I took my headband off. Whatever. Anyway, and what legal action people can take. So, I just want to start by talking about, like, off the bat, it's a shithole. It's an absolute shambles of a decision, quite blatantly not in the face of fans. It's a kick in the teeth. It's not what fans want. That's obvious. They're the obvious points. But I will say at the same time, I am not a fan of the current state of it anyway. Like, we can't be surprised that something like this has come about. We can't be surprised about the clubs that are signing up for it. Like, as a Chelsea fan, I'm ashamed, but I'm not surprised Chelsea signed up. Like, you've got to be open-minded and you've got to actually accept the fact that they're the clubs that, like, the biggest one for me is PSG not signing up. And that's only because the chairman or the president of PSG has links into UEFA, and he has a seat on UEFA, as did the Man United as did the Man United chairman, Ed Woodward. He stepped down of his position in UEFA. So that's surprising, but it's not surprising that Man United signed up. What it means is, if you haven't been keeping up with this, and this is like the first look of information you're getting, basically 15 founder teams. The last 3, I think, still yet to be decided of who they are. Porto have rejected it, Bayern Munich have rejected it, PSG have rejected, Dortmund have rejected. It's looking like Leipzig could be one of them. That was a big common factor last night when I was reading it. They might sign up. So the 15 founders are clubs that can never ever not play in the competition, so they will always have a place in said competition year in, year out. Games are set to be played midweek and will allow teams to stay in their respective domestic cups. It will replace the Champions League and Europa League format, which UEFA obviously aren't happy about. The other 5 teams in this will be made up of teams who deserve a place to play amongst them big, better teams. So you might see the likes of Leicester, Everton, maybe Ajax, Porto, them type of teams, hence why they've been approached. I'm actually surprised we haven't heard anything about the Eredivisie specifically, or at least I haven't heard anything about Eredivisie. Super League. There's nothing that comes to this. that suggests that they've even been approached or anything like that, or any news that have come out. So from my end, nothing as of me recording this. There's been nothing about those teams, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see PSV and Ajax approached. I'm trying to think Prague, them sort of Celtic and Rangers, the teams that are usually in the Champions League and usually could potentially get through to the round of 16. Them types of teams approached. I think at some point Schalke was offered a place. I was reading that, but I think that was just rumours. So them 5 teams will make up the last. So that makes 20 teams in total. Okay, sorry, where were we? I just had to go downstairs and peel some potatoes because we're having dinner. Where were we? We were talking about... so that's a total of 20 teams. Okay. The 20 teams then split into 2 different leagues. So you have 2 leagues of 10. The top 3 from each get added into the quarterfinals. 4th and 5th place play a playoff sort of final to be the 4th, and then at the end of the season it will be like a Champions League quarterfinal, semi-final. Why is this wobbling so much? It'll be a quarterfinal, semi-final, final, and the winner will win. Okay, that's fine. I don't necessarily even think that as a structure is bad. The actual setup of it sounds pretty enticing. I'm not going to lie, it sounds like it's good. However, because of it, UEFA, the FA, the Premier League, La Liga, Serie A, all the bodies are against it. Now, let's not kid ourselves. They're against it because they lose money. The money gets put... It allows the top 6 teams or the top 20 teams across the world, whoever they end up being, it allows them to gain a massive monopoly on the footballing world, which is something that should never ever occur. We say this all the time, like Amazon have a massive monopoly of the online retail market. They make billions and billions. Jeff Bezos, most expensive in the world. But that comes at a big cost. At the end of the day, I don't think the players will be for it. And that's something I don't want to talk about. That's right. I'm going to end that segment of that's what happens, that's where it's going. That's the setup of it. Now I'm going to get onto the opinion. Opinion talks about the whole thing. 1, I think that there's 2 scenarios and 2 outcomes to this. No, 3. There's 3 outcomes where the teams go ahead with this. They separate from the Premier League because, if you've been living under a rock, the Premier League and the UEFA have said that if these teams do, I know they've announced that they've joined, if it goes ahead as planned, they will sever their links with the Premier League. We'll talk about the Premier League. It will happen with all the others as well. I'm pretty sure it's the same. Premier League have said you will no longer be a Premier League club, nor be an English League club. If you will want to rejoin in the future, you will start at the 5th tier. UEFA have said you're no longer part of the Champions League, Europa League. You're also not part of the World Cup or Euro setups, and no player that's signed to your club will be able to play, they won't be able to go on international duty. Basically, they won't be able to represent their country. Now, not being in the Champions League and Europa League is the one thing that the players themselves and the clubs will have obviously already come to an agreement with. They play in the new Super League rather than the Champions League. That's who it's affecting. That's the replacement. They are then stripped of the ability to play in the Premier League. They are then stripped of the ability to go on international duty and represent their country. Now, the money will be very enticing. Each club is to receive £3.5 billion just for signing up, which is an outrageous amount of money. They, again, get more of a monopoly. You can see definitely one of the big streaming services trying to take 100% market share of the TV coverage for it, which I know Sky and BT have come out and said they're against it. I think that's, at the minute, because they still have ties with the Premier League. They have Premier League licenses, they have licenses they have to follow. And obviously, while everything's up in the air, they don't want to be seen working with the enemy. Otherwise, if BT go, actually, it's a good idea, Sky Sports will go, Premier League, have you seen the slander they're giving? Give us your matches. And it'll cut ties with those. So, right now, the actual Sky Sports, the big companies that are involved within sport, are obviously against it, because it's a good look for them to be against it, you know. But further down the line, if it was to go ahead, one of them will pick it up. I've got a suspicious feeling, and hence why I mentioned it, I've got a suspicious feeling Amazon will put in the biggest bid for it. We've seen Amazon try and buy the rights to some of the Premier League matches. They had, I think, the Boxing Day fixtures, maybe last year, the year before, whenever it was, that they were given it. And I think they have the money to pay big bucks. The whole league itself, if you weren't aware, is being financed by JP Morgan, which is an American bank. Pretty sure there's got to be some ties there with Amazon. Obviously not Jeff Bezos anymore because he stepped down, but whoever owns Amazon nowadays. I can see them going, American company, American bank. We'll fund it, we'll help fund it, we'll get the TV coverage. Whether that puts Amazon TV prices up, whether the subscription for it ends up being more or less than we're paying now. The one good thing that I can see coming from it, and this sounds ridiculous, is the fact that if one TV service has the access to it, it could potentially be a lot cheaper to watch the games, which as a fan, I'm all in favour of being able to watch the games for as cheap as possible. Not that, again, I agree with the league or the way about this that they've gone. But I do think, as we've seen over the past couple of years, the TV prices and the schedule prices, whatever the term is, it's gone up and up and up, and it's too expensive to watch football nowadays. It's outrageous. But if one good thing can come from this, it's that one streaming service gets this, and the prices are reasonable monthly or yearly subscription services to be able to watch it. Now, that's option one. It all goes ahead. They sever the ties with the leagues and the Champions League and international duty. Option number two is clubs like Chelsea and Man City. From the rumours I've heard today, they are more likely, or have been the more likely, to make a complete U-turn on their decision and realise that actually it's terrible. The sanctions that the Premier League and UEFA have put in place, or the sanctions that they are going to put in place, harm their players and their reputation, and they're not happy, so make a U-turn. That's what I want to happen from Chelsea, by the way. I want them to go, you know what, we signed up for this. And to be fair to them, I'm pretty sure they've come out and said they felt like they were backed into a corner. Now, think of this not necessarily from a fan's perspective, okay? It's awful. It's an awful decision. It always has been. It always will be. But think of this from a business perspective of they are being told that these clubs are signing up. You know, your Man Cities, your Real Madrid, your Barcelonas. Do you want to back out from this deal and be left out? No, you don't. It's stupid to say no to this deal if you're one of the big six. It is. Whether it's right or not for the fans, and it's morally right or not, it is stupid to say no to this deal from a business perspective. Okay? They've, at some point, the rumours have come out. Again, whether it's true or not, we don't know. But what we've seen is the fact that one or two people have come out and said that from the rumours they're hearing is they're tempted to make a bit of a U-turn on it, which I'd be okay with. And then obviously more clubs will follow and it will disband and not a lot will happen. And it'll just come crumbling down. The FA are then well within their rights to go, you know what, you're being fined for this. It's an awful decision. You've upset your fans. You've thrown the integrity of football all over the world up into the air, and it's not fair. And you should be punished for it, which I'm all in favour of. The third option I can see happening is the fact that the Super League is never and was never ever planning to go ahead. Now, currently we're seeing fans get enraged going, oh my god, this is happening. We've got other fans going, I can see why. Like, yeah, that makes total sense. And we've got these two clash of heads. Take a step back and think about who's actually in play here. UEFA and the clubs. UEFA have set to announce new rule changes, new things that are coming into football, whether it's what it is we don't know yet. That's set to be announced, I think, Friday, but it might be brought ahead just because of where things are now. And obviously clubs will have had to have been informed about these changes before it gets released to the general public. And if the rumours about these changes are to be believed, it's that money is being taken away from the bigger teams, redistributed a little bit better. The structure's a little bit different, so maybe in the Premier League it'll be 1st to 5th in the Champions League, 6, 7 and 8 in the Europa, and then 9 and 10 in a new league. We're yet to see anything like that. I haven't seen anything like that. Yeah, but it is something that UEFA are looking at doing. Now, if they're looking at that in conjunction with the Premier League may be thinking, right, we have a big divide between the top 6. They hold too much power. We need to do something about the money that they've been like, at the end of the day, it is the Premier League's fault. And the big bodies of the big unification bodies at work, it's their fault that it's even got to this stage. They've allowed teams like Chelsea, like Man City, I'm not saying we're not accountable at all, because we are, they've allowed them to get away with too much for too long. And now these clubs are going, you want to take money away from us, but we're the people that bring in the money. And they're not happy with it, hence why they've jumped ship. Now, because of this, the Premier League, or the Premier League teams, the big teams like the Super League teams, they've realised they hold all the power, so they've gone, shall we announce that we're creating, or shall we tell UEFA that we're creating our own league and separating ourselves from that? Because then they'll realise how much money they're missing out on. And like I'm saying, this is all now, from now on, hypothetical. They've gone, shall we announce that we're creating our own Super League, and they will realise that they're going to lose out. So it's basically to gain leverage over the changes. The clubs aren't happy with the changes that are coming in at UEFA. They've gone, okay, we'll create our own league, take all the money away from you guys. And then the guys at UEFA have gone, you're right, it's ruined football. And gone, we're going to take fans' perspective, and it's sort of all just gone, you've had a clash of heads over rules, you can't come to a compromise, so what's happened, it's built up. They've gone, right, fuck it, we're creating our own league, bang. They've gone, what the fuck do you mean? And it's all just erupted into this absolute mess that's gone public. So in that sense, and that's probably one of the things that I believe more, is the fact that it was never meant to go ahead. It won't go ahead. But it's just a way of gaining leverage over UEFA and the Premier League in order to remain at the top seat and in control over the bodies. That being said, they're the 3 different sort of theories I've got on it so far. Is either it'll go ahead, clubs will be in absolute disarray with their players and managers over what happens. But I want to move on from that. I want to talk about the players, the managers, because I know right now there will be people on Twitter, there will be people on Instagram, DMs, whatever, harassing these players. It will happen. It's probably already happened. It's probably happening. I don't think it's fair to judge them in the same lights that we're judging the club that they play for. Now, in the past, we've been quick to get on at players. I do think that there are certain players and certain people that I'd love to come forward and discuss this. But at the end of the day, they've signed a contract for that club. It hasn't been and won't have been their decision, any of this. And their contracts is what I want to talk about, because I had a discussion with a guy on Twitter last night. It's their contracts that I'm wondering where it'll go. I'm going to sit up for a bit. So, my thing is, I said to a guy on Twitter, surely their contracts, I even tweeted Spencer FC to see if he could shed any light on the actual contracts that players sign and how player contracts can be affected by this. Because in my mind, it makes sense that any of the clubs that have announced this, the Chelseas, the Man Cities, the Barcelonas, Juventus, all of them, it makes sense for any of their players' contracts to just be void. They didn't sign up for this. They haven't signed up to only play in one league. They haven't signed up to be banned from international duty. So surely they have to be legally offered an outlet. Now, it was brought to my attention, and quite obviously so, the players don't sign up for the league. They don't sign up to Chelsea via the Premier League. They sign up to Chelsea Club. The players then get registered by the club to play for said leagues. So in theory, the contracts are to Chelsea and not the Premier League or the Champions League. That's all based on where the club chooses to go, which rightfully so makes sense. Okay, so that's why I think we shouldn't ever be targeting specific footballers about this issue. We should be asking them, what are your thoughts on it? If they go, oh, I agree with it, then fair play. My second point I want to talk about in terms of the player contracts is the money involved. Now, what we did disagree on when I was talking to this person last night is his opinion on where players may lie, or where players may choose to play, you know what I mean? He was under the opinion, and rightfully so, that money dictates everything nowadays. People will go where the money's at. So players will be completely happy with this because they're going to get paid 2, 3, 4, 5 times their wages if they're playing for one of these big clubs. Now, I said, we know for a fact that's not 100% the case. I know that there are players out there that will be fuming because they want to win the Premier League. They've grown up wanting to win the Premier League and the Champions League and the Champions Cup and the World Cup. Tell me, what kid hasn't grown up loving football, not wanting to win the World Cup? None of them. They've all grown up thinking, I might win the World Cup one day. I want to win the World Cup. If this chance is severed, they will happily jump ship. Not all players. I understand that there will be, unsurprisingly to me, but surprisingly to a lot of people, a lot of players that will go, yeah, I'll stay at Chelsea. I'll stay at Chelsea. Give me 550k a week, and that is my future sorted. However, I will say, I will have respect for those players if they come out and say, quite honestly, they've offered me a lot more money than I ever thought I'd ever be on. This offers financial stability for my family. So I've decided it. You know what? Through anything in life, any job, a player, a human will want financial stability for their family and want to give the family the best they could give. Yes, I do understand these players are already very privileged to be in the position they're in. But if you're in that position and you're offered twice as much, you're going to take it. But that's on an individual player basis. It's not every player. It's not all the same players. Players, and I've said this, like a Mason Mount, like a Rashford, who grew up for the love of the club and for the love of the country and for the love of the journey that you go on, wanted to get to where they are, and they're getting to where they are. They haven't even reached their peak. And for this to be taken away from them, I don't think they're going to be happy. Players like, I don't even know, I can talk about probably Kepa, someone like Kepa. He's going to say, I'm sticking at Chelsea, give me 550k a week. Players like N'Golo Kante will probably be like, no, this isn't fair. I don't believe in something like this. When that comes to fruition, you're going to cause controversy in the camps. And they're going to argue. And the be all and end all of it is the players need an outlet to be able to get out of their contracts. Whether they're legally allowed to or not, I think they should be given the choice. Now, 2 things I want to talk about. Something my stepdad actually pointed out, and something I want to talk about is, in their current contracts, in their current contracts, as approved by the EFL, the Premier League, and the players, and I got this because I typed in Premier League contracts. because I wanted to see if I could get a hold of anything that the players end up signing. I think I got it on my phone, and I was quite surprised that this is a public form. But apparently it's a public form, so people can see what they agreed to. Whereas it documents the Premier League players' contract. Now, this isn't ever the player contract itself. This is the Premier League contract. This is what both the player and the club agree to for the Premier League. And I might put images up if I remember to put them on. This is what the players and the club agree to when signing up to the Premier League and signing the player's current contract when they sign for the club. So regardless of whether Chelsea or whoever it is say, we don't want to be part of the Premier League anymore, that contract with that player still stands, and that's the agreement the player has made. Okay, doesn't say anything about playing in the Champions League, doesn't say anything about being able to leave the Premier League, but what it does say is this, and this is why this is important. UEFA have come out and said that the players won't be able to play or will be banned from international duty. Now, that to me seemed a bit bonkers, but it is very, very key, because there is a clause, and let me find it. Okay, so I can't find the actual thing in the thing that I read. It's probably just me and my eyes not working properly. But there is a clause that said that the club has no authority to refuse the player's right to represent their international team, which is why I wanted to highlight the fact that that's a key argument that UEFA and the FA and the Premier League are making, is the fact that they will ban all players from any of the international competitions, which, as stated by their current contract, clubs are not legally allowed to control. So by opting into the Super League, they are severing their player contracts link, which then make it a legal issue between the player and the club. That is very important. Now, whether UEFA can actually do this is yet to be seen. I'm pretty sure there's legal talks going ahead right now to see whether they can ban these, and they probably will ban them. I do think they have the power between the FA and any of the other big powers to ban them from doing any international competitions and going on international duty. So, again, I just want to reiterate the fact that fans better not be targeting specific players, because admittedly it's not down to them. The same with managers. Like, Tuchel came out today in a very roundabout way and said that he follows Chelsea Football Club. His contract is with Chelsea Football Club, and he hopes that the club chooses the right option. Now, I saw a lot of comments saying he's an absolute sellout, saying that he's not strong enough to fight for himself, but in my eyes, it can be interpreted both ways. It can be interpreted as him going, I actually agree with the Super League, I just don't want to come out and say it because then the fans will hate me. But it can also be interpreted as I can't necessarily stand up against them because I've only just got here. I've signed a contract that makes me obligated to work for the club and not necessarily just the players or even the fans. I'm here to do a job and to win international competitions, and he hopes that Chelsea choose the right choice in terms of making a U-turn or sticking with it. That's then up to the club, and whether Tuchel thinks that's the right or wrong choice, we're not sure. What I did see is the fact he just wants them to focus on the next game, which I can sort of understand. He's annoyed at the fact that it's taken the opinion away from the actual games that are being played at the minute. But that's something that was going to happen, because if that was to happen and Liverpool and Chelsea were to be out of the Premier League by Friday, the next games that they play are just friendlies at the end of the day. Doesn't make a difference. So that's what I wanted to say in terms of that. Apparently Klopp's come out and made a bit of a somewhat what's Klopp said. Klopp's come out and said it didn't change my opinion. His opinion initially was that he was completely against it, so it didn't change his opinion. He heard it for the first time about it yesterday. We got some, not a lot of information. It's a tough one. People are not happy. I can understand that. We are not involved in any process, not me or the players. That says a lot. That is a lot more. And he said to BBC Sport, remember the most important parts of the club are the supporters and the team, and we should make sure nothing gets in the way of that. That actually says a lot more about Klopp. He's against it. He doesn't want it. I can happily see him walk by Friday if Liverpool do go ahead with being in the Super League. A lot of the clubs and a lot of the managers and the players are being thrown under the bus, and not necessarily just by putting them in a position where they both can't comment an official opinion without either walking or sticking, which are the two options, but also by them as the media men. The managers and a few of the players are the ones that sit in front of the cameras and talk to these journalists. They're the ones that have the press conferences. They're the ones that have to deal with the questions and the scrutiny, whereas the owners don't. Jurgen Klopp coming out saying that his stance hasn't changed and that he thinks that we should focus on the fact that it's not about the players and the managers is 100%. And that's where the problem lies. It's just a mess. The players don't know what's happening. Oh, another thing, I want to talk about the player contracts. I remembered now that my stepdad actually mentioned is the fact that the club said, that the international thing said, if they play for these teams, that they will not gain an international appearance. It might happen that if they are part of that team, they won't be able to be allowed entrance, which I can see happening. But like my stepdad rightfully pointed out, is the fact that if they sign up to a 5-year contract under these rules, they could probably sit there and say, I want to keep my international integrity. I want to keep playing for England and Germany and Spain and France and Brazil. So I've signed this contract, but don't think for a minute I'm playing a game. If you put me on that field, I'm walking off. I've signed this 5-year contract. No, you can do about it. Nothing you can do about it. Because I haven't made an appearance. I haven't played the game. I still get to do whatever I want. And I think a lot of the power, and I don't think they know it yet, but I think the players hold a lot of power in this. They do. We see the fact that the owners of the clubs have all the power over the decisions that are made. Personally, I don't think that's the case. It used to be the fans. It used to go fans who have the power, and the clubs at the other end who need to make the big decisions. And then in between you have beautiful football. Managers, players, support staff, ground staff, anyone. Now, the fans have been swept away. What does this leave? It leaves a big gap. What comes next? The players. I think they hold a lot of power. And that's where we need to start seeing big name players. I don't just mean that under Herrera's, because he is a big player, don't get me wrong, he plays for PSG. But PSG are already on the side of they're against it. We expect a lot of the PSG players to come against it. We need the Rashfords, the Mason Mounts, the Bruno Fernandezes, the De Bruynes, the captains of the Harry Kane. We need these players to go, you know what? Fuck it. My position is under scrutiny here. Their position in these teams and in world football is under threat. They need to stick up for themselves and say, you know what? Enough's enough. I'm not happy with it. If you agree to that, my contract's gone. I'm not playing. And there's nothing you can do about it. That's what needs to happen. I think that's where I'm going to end it. Obviously, you guys know my viewpoints. It's stupid. I'll make one final point. I don't want to drag on too much because it's been a very long video as is. The whole point in the Super League was to make it as competitive as possible. By that, if you've got a team like Arsenal, who admittedly, for the first couple of seasons, if it even lasts that long, if it even goes ahead, won't finish in the top half of any of this, you will see teams like Arsenal, Tottenham, finish bottom. There will be a team that finishes bottom. Now, the players that play for them will think, why am I playing for this team? We finish bottom. Yes, we can't get relegated to in the competition again. But why am I playing for this team? Well, I could be playing for that team. And then them players will go, I want out. Where can we go? Well, we can't go to the Premier League. We can't go to the Bundesliga. We can't go to the fucking Serie A. We can't go anywhere because we signed this. And we're part of this problem. So players are going to go, we'll go up. I'll join a Real Madrid. I'll join Chelsea. I'll join Barcelona. I'll join Juventus. I'll join Atletico. So then the clubs at the top of that gain a bigger monopoly over the clubs at the bottom. So out of the 20 clubs that sign up, a lot of them are going to be in the shitter after a year or two. And I'm calling it. If it does go ahead, that's exactly what's going to happen. Regardless of how much money is put in, the players that are playing for that team that finish bottom, or second to bottom, or third bottom, they're not going to want to play for them clubs because they finish bottom. It's like if Bournemouth were relegated. It's like if Watford get relegated in the Prem. Not that they're in the Prem. If Norwich get relegated again, where do them players go? Oh, Ryan Fraser and Callum Wilson, they signed for Newcastle because they didn't want to play in the Championship. They didn't want to be known as playing for a team that's as low as them. They thought they were better. So what did they do? They jumped ship and went to Newcastle. Rightfully so. Don't get me wrong. They were great transfers. It was a brilliant bit of business. But Newcastle, where's that left Bournemouth? Should we have a look? Bournemouth AFC. That's left them currently 5th in the Championship. Actually on decent form, to be fair to them. But they haven't got the players they once had. It's going to be a never-ending cycle of the same teams winning that Super League. It's going to be the Real Madrids, the Barcelonas, the Man Cities that have got the most money. Even potentially Chelsea. Because they can attract the big names. Because they have Champions Leagues under their belt. Because they have the history that it's built on. That's what's going to attract the players. And that's where I want to end it. Mourinho's been sacked. That came out today. It's not something I really want to discuss. I said months ago, or weeks ago at a very minimum, that he was going to be gone. They're not going to keep him if this form continues where they don't play well enough. They're not going to get Champions League. They're not going to keep him. The big question is who replaces him. I don't know. I don't think there's anyone out there right now that wants to replace him. Spurs manager odds. Let's have a look at who's in the running. Julian Nagelsmith, potentially. Nagelsmith is favourite. Fair play. Brendan Rodgers. I don't think he's going to leave Leicester. Ledley King, Massimiliano Allegri, Steven Gerrard, Scott Parker, Rafa Benitez. Rafa could be a good one to get to Tottenham. I can see that happening. But that's the be all and end all of that, isn't it? So I hope you guys have enjoyed. They're my thoughts. I don't agree with it at all. I think that something needs to happen, but I also don't necessarily think that it's actually going to go ahead. I think it's either going to be option one, where they just cut ties completely, and we see arguably the saddest period in football that we've seen in a very long time, or they're just using it as bait to try and get what they want out of UEFA, because the clubs and the owners know that they hold a lot more power than the Premier League would like to admit. It's been your boy, AS Clement. I hope you guys have enjoyed. Good. Bye.